Are you wondering why your CV has not been selected for interview? Why have you been rejected post-interview and what did you do wrong? I'm Esther Echeverria. I have been recruiting for designers, architects, and engineers in Dubai for nearly 10 years. In the Designer Recruiter podcast, you learn from top industry leaders to finally get that feedback and understand what makes them select one candidate over another. Our next guest is a Spanish architect, designer, and researcher, currently associate professor at the American University of Sharjah in the field of architecture and interior design. Juan Roldan is interested in certain practices and rituals that occur in the urban landscape of UAE. His work has been included in international magazines such as Metalocus, Domus, and ON Design. He has also been the curator of several exhibitions, including the first D3 Riba Architecture Festival, Downtown Design, and Al Nafwal. Juan, thank you very much for joining the show. I'm very pleased to have you because most of our listeners are actually job seekers, and it seems that everything starts with university. So to start with, we'd like to know more about you and why did you choose to study architecture?
First fact is that my dad was an architect, although I like to say that he was probably more of a 19th century style of profile of architect. As he was for 40 years, he was the main chief architect of heritage and monuments in Madrid City Hall. But I guess that it was a choice by default or by rejection. So I think I was not into business sides, lawyers. I knew that there was an important component of creativity and drawing. So I think that was the first thing that really caught my attention about studying architecture. But within the journey of studying and discovering, I think I was able to reopen my mind to what design means at a larger scale. That I think has been probably an important base of my own work and teaching probably.
How did you manage to switch from architecture to teaching?
That was a gradual process. I opened my own firm with a partner in 2002, actually before we finished our degree. Because we were having several commissions that had to do with architecture and retail, a lot of interior design as well. And at that time in Madrid, we had both had the opportunity of applying to universities in Madrid. So I started teaching. At the beginning, was drawing in first year. And at that time, that kind of what at that time was called adjunct positions was allowing us to keep our own practice and at the same time keep a foot on academia. At some point in 2012, I met what at that time was the dean of the School of Architecture, of the College of Architecture at the American University of Sharjah, Peter De Sabatino, and I saw some amazing work that was exhibited in the Salone del Mobile in Milan at that time in the furniture fair. And it really caught my eye about what these students and design students were actually capable of doing. So that was kind of an important shift for me and my family moving to the UAE in 2013. So since then, I have been full-time teaching, but at the same time practicing. So gradually I have been being able to really come back and have certain small design commissions and design work on the side.
Oh, that's nice to hear that you can keep both, not being only full-time teacher. Yeah. And back to after graduated, do you remember how did you secure your first internship or your first job?
As I was telling you, I was kind of a self-made. At that time, I would say I probably right now will be an entrepreneur in a way because we started working on our own firm at the beginning. If I dive a little bit earlier, while I was a student, I secured my first job interning for two of my professors at that time during a summer. And that was it. So at that time was that direct contact with this professor who actually allowed me to have these first this first job.
So you didn't ever go to an interview yourself?
Not really. I think I've only conducted one interview. That was only when I applied for this job here in the UAE at the US.
Okay. How was this interview? Because I was curious to know if yourself.
That was tough. The process was long. So I applied 1 year. It was not very fruitful. I had a telephonic interview, never heard back from them. But I insisted. I'm kind of a stubborn, and I thought it was worth it. So in 2013, I applied again, and I got a second telephonic interview, and then I got shortlisted. The shortlisted were flown to San Francisco. So let's say that I had an interview with the dean, another interview with the head of the department at that time, Michael Hughes, and then another third interview with both of them. So it ended up becoming 2 days jet-lagged series of interviews, and finally landing this job that I think has really changed my life. Yeah.
I think that's so interesting what you said, because the last advice of my last guest was if you get rejected on the first time, apply again, keep pushing when it's worth it. And you are an amazing example today. So I'm very pleased that you shared your journey.
Thank you.
You also the RIBA Gulf Charter representative here.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about what is RIBA a little bit? And
RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, have several chapters throughout the world, and somehow represents the interests of the chartered firms of RIBA. In my case, I'm more of a freelance. I'm not a RIBA chartered practice. I'm not a RIBA 3, Part 3, as they usually call it. But I'm more into, as where we have been calling it or naming it as educational liaison. So through these roles, and with the help and assistance of the whole team, we try to engage more of the students' audience into activities that we developed, meaning that we developed the first D3 Architecture Festival in 2020. So along these activities where we had roundtables, we had students' workshops, and even some workshops for children. So throughout the year, I guess we do a minimum of 3 to 4 activities that have to do with workshops. Sometimes we've had portfolios reviews that is more related to finding and securing a job, or getting feedback from people from the industry or from renowned firms to really give advice to students. Or at some point we've done our annual summer charrette, that is kind of a more design-based workshop. And in this case, and because it began when I started with RIBA Gulf Charter, it started online, and we have had 2 of these workshops that have worked very, very well online, having, I would say, a bunch of around maybe 40 to 50 students from all over the world, that I think has opened, I think, very interesting conversations. Yeah.
That's amazing. And this RIBA D3 festival, is it still ongoing? You mentioned 2020.
We are working on the second edition for this November, as part of Design Days in Dubai Design District, in one of the lobbies. And yes, we will have, like we had last time, we will have an exhibition of work from all the GCC countries. We will have roundtables related with sustainability. That is the main umbrella topic and theme of the exhibition and the festival, and workshops as well.
Everyone can join?
Yes, everybody can
because
join.
I keep trying to share this kind of event and encourage anyone that is, again, our audience are job seekers, so I really encourage job seekers to actually also participate to those events and meet the right people and go to the right conversation and the right places. So it's another one great to go. I met you recently at the CID, and I didn't really know that you're also a jury at the CID. Since when are you a jury, and can you walk us through this experience?
It's been, so probably I have been invited by probably right now between 5 or 6 different editors of the magazine throughout the last 10 years. So I would say that at least I would say maybe 7 times over the last 10 years. I have been a jury, so it has been a great experience.
That's great. CID awards make lots of noise in the industry. And how does is the jury easily agreeing on the winner, or how is the decision-making process?
Well, there's a lot of confidentiality that happens in these processes, but I would say that it's not an easy task. I think the variety and the breadth of the different types of professionals and academics, I think it gives a very good balance about the criteria of choice, but it's never easy. And I think that's another challenging and very enriching part of the process. I think it's first of all to witness firsthand the pulse and how the industry is doing at that specific time, almost every single year. And internally, I think it gives us a very interesting first-hand vision of how all the different offices present their work, how they're doing, and more than just the final outcome, how they think or how the design process and creative process works. That I think is something that we as jury members really appreciate.
That's
not just plain cold presentations, but being able to read and go through a lot of documentation. I have to say, I think is a hard task, but it's also a privilege.
Yeah, it is. And what if one of the nominees is actually an alumni of AUS? How do you manage to stay impartial?
I've had personally this kind of conflict of interest, and even I'll tell you 2 different cases this year. Whenever there's an alumni that is an AUS alumni mainly from the interior design bachelor, where I'm mainly teaching, I won't vote. So there's a clear conflict of interest, so I wouldn't vote. In the past...
That's very nice to hear. Because some people are very scared that sometimes it can be biased, or it's always the same winning, I can hear.
No, even if there would be, and it's easy. So I think it is a big event. I think it's a very healthy industry in another way. So to explain it is not part of the question. But in the past, part of our educational program has to do with a very strong component of design and build, meaning that students in 4th year, they build a full-scale one-to-one project. And in this case, I remember it was the Office of Sustainability of AUS. So, and that student's project, 65 square meters, a very humble project, but most of the material that was used was recycled and upcycled. That was part of that was shortlisted as part of the office category. So I was very excited to have students' work as part of a professional award, but the same way. So I left the room while the rest of the jurors were voting in that category, and when they finished, I came back. So
I think that's fair. And it's very good to hear that you do design and build and actual projects, because a lot of guests that have been sitting here told me there is a huge gap between university and the real world, and people usually in general, because now we are self-taught, like to kind of criticize the university. So you're here to defend yourself today. Yeah,
I understand that frustration, and I think it will always happen. I always make this statement that I think universities or academia, we're not teaching our students to be like, say, in the food chain, I like to say. So every single office will have very highly specific requirements that they will see that a student doesn't meet. I want my students your students should know Revit, or they should know SketchUp and these others rendering software that they are familiar with, or they should know 3D Studio or Revit or whatever. Bachelors of Interior Designs, they're quite short. In our case, is a 4th year's bachelor with a year of foundations. That is a general education in terms of design principles, drawing technique, history, etc. So when it comes to the core of the bachelor, there's this little room, and we think that we prepare our students well in terms of being resourceful, critical thinkers, and problem solvers. That at the end of the day, let's say, are the skills besides being good designers and having enough criteria and scientific criteria of how to choose the materials, etc. I think it's what makes our students, I think, good professionals at the end of the day. It's an ongoing conversation, and I think the more that I worked hand in hand with firms or studios, making them understand the needed transition that needs to happen between university and professional life in terms of that internships, when we think about third-year students, they need certain amount of mentorship. And whenever that conversation has happened before the internship happens, in terms of the firm asking me which kind of profile of students do you think we need, who would be available in these kind of terms, I always try to make sure that at least there's certain, or at least at that time when I was not doing it officially, that there was some payment done by the offices to the students. But at least there was a conversation about, do you think this specific student should be better, more comfortable in concept design? Or do you think she would be good at a construction site, supervising with us?
It's hard to know that when
it's
you're
hard to
still
know,
studying.
but I think that's knowing the students, when you've been with them for over 2 years, between second and third year, I think you know them better in what kind of skills probably they can develop and or can be improved when it comes
Maybe
to internships.
for some, you know them better than they know themselves. Because me, I wouldn't know.
Probably, and I probably sometimes we have pushed students to probably do something that might not be her first choice, but we have very good feedback from the offices, telling us, these two students, they were killers in construction site, following, and supervising that all details, that everything was being placed and constructed correctly according to the plan and to the details. So I think it opens another important door, and I think that trying to equalize that transition between university and professional life, I think it's important.
It's nice because it seems that your first internship and the name that you have on your CV will almost dictate the rest of your career, because sometimes when you started on site, it's very hard to then go back to design. The opposite is fine. Usually design, they can switch to site because they like site people to understand the design. But all the way around, so it gives, I think, lots of pressure in the student to already know at a young age what they want. So I think it's amazing that they have you that is already really much one foot in the you are still working, you are liaising with the companies.
As I was telling you, and I think because in third and fourth year, we always try to have a component of making. So the wood shop that we have, metal shop, the rest of the facilities that students have access to, I think it gives them an important component of tactility, of really understanding the material. So then I think they makes them not being afraid of really being involved into site management or site supervision in that sense. And I think they really appreciate it if they can really have access, let's say, to the full scope. And we're a small program, and at the end of the day, I think students, they tend to go and do internships at smaller boutique firms. Yeah. So I think that I also try to encourage, or at least at the beginning, so at least for the internships, they have a better understanding of everything that can happen during the design and process of a given project. It's always a very short time. It's something that I complain about, but that is, let's say, the rules of the university. It's only 5 weeks. But trying to encourage them always to really do them much longer, at least 2 months or throughout the full summer.
Yeah, so they can know what's happening out there. Yeah. And interior design is already quite niche, and in the UAE there are quite a few universities. So how is the competition for fresh graduates? Do you have any data on how long they spent looking for a job after that? Or?
No, I mean, I don't have data. I have what could be more casual conversations. So we've discussed this before, and I think I still keep a lot of contact with alumni. We have, I think, a very strong network on LinkedIn. So we have been trying to transfer all the share information for job opportunities, competitions, etc., from an old Facebook platform that nobody uses anymore into becoming more professional. So even third-year students, they're encouraged to have their portfolios, their CVs ready on LinkedIn. And there's a lot of conversations that happen there. I would say that finding a job right after finishing the degrees is not difficult. I think Dubai and I think the region is in good health in that
there
sense.
There are more than 2,000 design studios
Yes,
in the UAE.
and I think that a good comparison, I think it's the CID Awards in terms of really seeing the energy and the strength of the industry to equivalent awards in architecture.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, you can really see that economically, I think it's an important asset in the country, and I think it's expanding. I really feel that some students really take them longer to find a job because they want to land the perfect job and position in the right place, which I think it's also fair. Not to land any kind of job or whatever is easy, but to really find that specific. We have students that have a really clear idea that they really want to have a path into the world of luxury in retail, or they really want to really do their first steps into hospitality, high end.
I think it's good to know what you want, but I guess some are also pressured by the financial aspect. I mean, not
True.
Everyone can afford to just get everything they want at once.
Yes.
And how about, you said you encourage, because you said you are coordinator and you work with companies and you encourage them to pay the internship. Are there unpaid internship? Is that okay?
There are unpaid internships, unfortunately, yes. With these promise that, this is a period of internships and then we will see, which I try to disencourage, at least for graduating students. Another thing is the academic internships that happen in third year, that we can encourage. But I'm happy that I think an incremental number of offices are willing to pay to the students.
Yeah, they recognize their work.
Yes.
But somehow when you just graduated, I mean, for myself, I didn't mind at that time, because I think you just want to learn and get your feet out there. And that's the only way is to start working. Yeah. Either it's in a professional studio or on your own things as well. How would you mention your few interview with AUS back in 2013? How would someone want to switch their career to teaching can do? There are accreditation, or there are things to follow? Or?
Not from academic point of view. I think if we want to think more specifically about the UAE, I think there's still not like in Europe, where a PhD would be something absolutely essential to really access the academic career. And I'm very happy that many of our students that have studied interior designs have shifted or have done a master's degree in history in UK, and they're back to work and follow their professional life as interior designers here. But they are always willing to go back and maybe give a short lecture or a small course, or helping us with some educational tasks, that I think is always very, very, very good. And I think it's eventually, and I think in the future, will be great to have also more alumni involved in academia and being part of our faculty body. Yeah.
Calling all the alumni of AUS to join you. Yeah. How does that work in terms of hierarchy? It's adjunct, assistant, and then?
Adjunct, assistant, associate, and full professor.
Okay.
Yeah. So we follow more about the American rankings in that sense.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you you mentioned quickly your alumni. Is there any group, do you stay in touch with your student, or are they? Because for me, university, even if now people are saying that you don't need university, you can self-taught yourself, you can learn any software. Yeah. For me, university, although I didn't study architecture, more engineering, but it's a lot about the network and the people you meet, and you never know, in 10 years, maybe there will be, one of your friends will be your employer, or they will recommend you to a job. So are there any kind of follow-up with alumni?
It is, and some of them have become my clients. So because we have been collaborating with them in terms of these projects of design and build or installations for some pieces that we have designed in Dubai. So it has worked in many levels. from direct collaborations. So when I was curating the first D3 festival, the whole exhibition and a lot of the curatorial aspects of it, I was assisted by between 2 and 3 alumni. I have been hired by alumni to collaborate and do the design consultancy for their firms, or they open their own firms, or even if they're working for other firms. And yes, and I've been hired by some of my students as part of larger companies to work for them. So I think it has has become a very healthy way of establishing this kind of network. On the other side, I think it also has opened a lot of opportunities for other students that constantly are asking me, I'm looking for a job. Do you know any firm? Oh, pues there, like 3 days ago, I was contacted by this person. They're actually looking for this profile. It doesn't work, not work. So I would say that in a weekly basis, I can't really put in contact maybe between 1 and 2 people that have to do with our alumni network. Yeah. And I think
So
we're quite active.
You are doing my job somehow. You are placing
In a
people,
way, in a more informal way, I do my best to really put people in contact. That I think it's good. I mean, always knowing that they belong to the same kind of family, I think it also gives a certain trust. Yeah.
And back to the award, and I think there are lots of other kind of competition, product design that students can participate. And how important are those to give them, to make sure they have the right, traction on their profile?
Yes.
Because I think once you are known in the industry somehow.
I think it has become a very important key element at least for us. So. We have been very successful in the past in this competition. So the first 2 one-day ROCA design challenges, the first 2 prizes in a row were won by third-year interior design students from AUS. So that gave I think a lot of morale to the whole students' body. Constantly, I think a lot of my time throughout the year is also invested in this work of mentorship. And I think specifically the UAE students have very good opportunities of winning, having cash prizes, and even at some point to get their designs built. So over the last years, we also have been quite successful, winning the Christo and Jean-Claude Award in Abu Dhabi. It's Christo, the artist, and his wife. They established this award in Abu Dhabi in collaboration with in New York University in Abu Dhabi, where students have to design an outdoor installation / sculpture / pavilion. And Christo himself funded the prize and the construction of these elements. AUS has been very successful, and myself with some students, we won that first prize. The same thing with Abu Dhabi Art Pavilion. During the art fair, there's also this students competition where they have to design and build a pavilion. At that time, it was 200 square meters. So that became also a very interesting opportunity for me and for the students to really see something built even before they finish their degree. So I think that is a privilege that you don't see in so many places in the world, I would say.
That makes you unique in the AUS.
I would say that it's I think they have a tendency of not realizing about the privilege that these opportunities mean. So I always try to encourage them. So yeah.
Yeah, it seems that some people think it's better to go study in Europe or in the UK for architecture, for example. But I think in Dubai there are amazing universities already. And usually they do their bachelor here, but they will do the master.
Yes, I think that the landscape of more specific masters is something that we have to look into the variety, but I think it's also very healthy that students also travel and have experience abroad as part of their masters. which is great.
Yeah, and the build, I think it's good because, as you say, like there is a lot of my client actually for junior.
Yeah.
They always say, okay, they designed a lot, but they never seen their project being built. So
Yeah.
they have picture of anything they done that, and it makes a huge difference. So I'm sure they get recruited.
Yeah,
much.
whether it's through competitions or through the capstone project that they do. Right now we are working, and I'm working with my fourth year students, revamping a whole design studio. So it's a classroom where the designed studio happens. We're revamping, and it's about almost 200 square meters. So it's going to be done in 2 phases, but yes. So we're tackling this first phase is about floor, soft materials, workstations, and vertical elements. And on the second phase, we will have storage walls and ceilings and lights. And again, it during their student life, they have to deal with suppliers. They have to deal with a real budget. They have to realize that things are really cool on paper, but when it comes to put things together and to build them, there's things that need to change. There are implications that have to do with fabrication, with the means that are available for us to do things on time under the budget that are constraints, but I think they're healthy constraints as any part of any process. Yeah.
So that's very good to almost conclude, because this is exactly how you reduce the gap between real work and university, I think. So you are doing a great job. Now back to you a little bit before we conclude. Do you have any regret in your career or anything you would have done differently maybe?
And honestly not. I think the career has had this incremental level of playfulness and learning. Probably when my career was kind of more stuck in Spain after the big crisis of 2008. So we had a chance of traveling here in 2013. And from there, I think everything has been really going back to relearn what teaching means and what designing means, because I think being in a different context like the UA, which I think is an incredible place to be when it comes to interior design and designs, as it's getting a much more mature market. But I think I would have a regret that it's probably, I don't know, maybe have been exposed maybe to work younger to larger corporations. I think I found myself and learning the hard way of how to run a company when I was 25, 26.
Oh, wow. It's very young indeed.
Yeah, and also finishing my degree. So that was, there was a lot of spinning plates around us, which was great. But I think probably having had a transition with a company, with a wage at the end of the month, and, finishing at 5, 6, and then not having to make so many sacrifices, that might have been probably something that it's not a regret, something that sometimes I miss that could have happened. But, circumstances were the way they were, and I think we're happy with even what happened during those years. I think.
Yeah, we do what we can in the. But I think, for me, like, I have my company now for 4 years, and I cannot imagine have done that earlier, because really, as you said, there is a huge pressure in terms of finance, and so I think 25 can be even more challenging. But it's nice to hear that even the small regrets you have, like at the end, are not really regret, and it's good to encourage, because I think if our listener are job seeker, and if they are, for example, fresh graduate, they should remember that nothing in life is like you can change everything basically. Nothing is stuck, so you can always evolve and manage to find your way around.
No, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you very much for joining the show. I was very pleased to have you today.
My pleasure and my honor to be here. Thank you very much, Esther.
Thank you.